Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours. We talk media and production 7 days a week. It's Friday. That means it's Q&A. We're going to be talking PTZs. We're going to be talking ZoomISO. We got a lot of fun today. We're talking AI labs. A lot coming up. Alexander, let's get into the first question.
This one is from the QR code from Tochionya Buchi in Manyema. Like most corporate users, especially those working in government, we are PC only for all operations, so ZoomISO never was an option. Any other suggestions for apps to deliver when Wirecast isn't doing well with Zoom API? Hard enough to get Zoom use here to be okayed.
Jason.
Okay. Well, the gold standard for Windows is vMix. Like just straight away, vMix, OBS. That is going to be the solution for the vast majority of people.
Chris?
Well, congratulations. You're on the right side of the aisle because obviously PCs are better than Mac anyway, so you don't have to worry about that, right? But in all reality, like vMix is fantastic. It does so much more than ZoomISO, but should be able to do what you need it to do. Wirecast has bit me enough that I am not a fan. I know some people who use it regularly. James Haldane, I know, uses it a ton and has no issues with it. So that's maybe reach out to James and see if he's got some suggestions for what's specifically going wrong with your Wirecast. But Wirecast should be able to do what you need to do. vMix obviously will. You just need to make sure you've got the correct PC build that it's strong enough to handle whatever you're throwing at it.
And Talala Lopez Waterman in the chat brings up another good point. You may want to look at Zoom Rooms. That might give you a little bit more control. It also allows you to, without any external software support, two different cameras coming out of the same room. It may be a little more basic than what you are. It's a lot different than a software switcher like a vMix or what you're able to do with Wirecast. But depending on what you're looking for, it may have just enough rigidity and stability that it'll be what you need. Next question.
This one is from Zach Stelsmith in Chautauqua, New York. I will be remoting into my house of worship via Splashtop from a hotel room to run the virtual service. What is the best way to securely do this using the hotel's internet connection, unless I invest in Starlink soon?
Chris?
In reality, you don't need to do anything. If all you're talking about is Splashtop is secured through SSL. It's AES encryption. If that's all you're talking about doing is just connecting through Splashtop, you should be fine, right? That you don't really need to do anything else. If you're kind of paranoid and want to, you can get something like a GLI net and do a VPN or something like that. But if we're just talking about Splashtop, I don't think you need to do anything else.
Courtney?
Yeah, security may not be your biggest problem with Splashtop. In hotel Wi-Fi, if it's hotel Wi-Fi, you're going to be competing with all the other hotel people. And a lot of times, depends on the time of day when people are just getting up before they leave for their conference or whatever they're going to, that they were staying at the hotel for. You'll find the hotel's backhaul overloaded, and it may slow down. You may have a lot of packet loss. If your hotel has one of those phones that has an Ethernet connection on it, plug into that. And if you have a travel router, use a travel router that uses your own NAT so that, you're not on the same Ethernet as everybody else and competing with them for DHCP, because a lot of times they will run out of IP addresses. In some hotels, they're very poorly configured. These days are getting better. Another possibility is it's really just depends on the hotel how much Ethernet connection or internet connection they have access to, and how many rooms are in that hotel and who you're sharing it with. Another thing is to look at your phone. If your phone has 5G on it, or even 4G LTE, check how many bars you have on your phone, because you could use your phone as a hotspot. That might be better than hotel Wi-Fi. Sometimes I've found that to be the case in hotels, especially if, it's the end of the day, 5 o'clock or so, everybody's checking in with the mothership. the hotel internet connection just drags to a stop practically. So keep all that stuff in mind and use your phone as a backup hotspot.
Ronnie?
Yeah, so those times that I need to travel and staying in hotels, coverage can be sparse if you're in the end of the corridor and long way from the router or the access point. I tend to bring my GL-iNet travel router, and this has a multiple connection functionality. So first and foremost, you have the Wi-Fi that can connect to a hotel's Wi-Fi as in a bridge mode. Then it has, of course, cabled Ethernet if there is such a feature in your hotel room. They normally doesn't. Then it has a tethering option to your cellular phone. Just bring your correct cable and you can tether your phone. And in addition to that, some of these also has a connection for USB-A to a normal 4G or 5G modem, a dongle that you can plug into that instead of using your phone. So there's always some way of connection. And of course, if you go the whole way and invest in a Starlink, you can just use the Ethernet connection on this travel router. So that is a good thing to do. And you can also do VPN so that this actually connects every device that you have with you to the same VPN connection, and you can reach them from both sides. So that's kind of a cool.
I had
cool
this week actually. I was in a hotel. It was a pretty nice hotel even, and was in a meeting room with the paid for special meeting package that it set aside just for you. And there were 20 of us, say, in the room. Nobody had any connection, but there I saw in the corner of the room, there was an Ethernet jack, plugged in my little GL-iNet, and then made a Wi-Fi, and all of a sudden, now everybody had fast internet. Now, the next thing that I did was, when I needed it just for me and the meeting had broken, I switched that GL-iNet into VPN mode, hooked it into my tailnet, and then plugged in over Ethernet into one of the LAN ports out of it. And all of a sudden, I had a really robust connection. If you don't have the option, Zach, to have an Ethernet port, then I'm going to second what was recommended by some here in the panel and also in the chat, that the mobile data is probably going to serve you better than hotel Wi-Fi, but not as good as Ethernet. So if you're trying to connect a couple devices through, then you can do mobile data into the GL-iNet, and then that can serve as the layer to connect to VPN. However, if you're just trying to do Splashtop, then one wire into the computer serve you well. Next question.
This question is coming in from Andy Kokendorfer in Vera, Florida, USA. How reliable is NDI Virtual Input on macOS Sequoia as a source for Zoom app video audio?
Jason.
Of late, I think it's actually pretty solid all by itself. The trick, though, is that you have to keep careful use on your on how much else the Mac is doing. So you can very quickly run out of system resources, which is not NDI's problem, but that would be my only warning along those lines.
The other thing to think about is, are you using it for video, like a video contribution for you talking, or is it going to be something for play out? Because that's going to have a slightly different requirement. The other thing that you need to consider is that NDI Virtual Input is going to be limited by the flavor of NDI that is getting fed to it. So if you're giving it a compressed NDI feed, then you're going to get compressed video into Zoom, which is then going to go through Zoom's compression, and then you may be competing there. So you want to consider the source, consider your settings, and what's the mission as you're trying to make those decisions. Jason?
Yeah, and I'll just say this because it's worth saying every time this comes up. Dedicated NICs are cheap. Get a dedicated NIC, and that will solve so many problems.
I owe Mickey big time, because when one of these was on sale, this little OWC, it's a Thunderbolt 3 10 gig NIC. This was like, I don't know, $200 or $300, but to have that in the bag and to not have to worry
10
about
gigabit, it's awesome. Yeah,
incredible. So anyway, yes. Next question.
This one's from Vic Hernandez in Springfield, Missouri. I have an Insta360 Link version 1, which works fine, but I'd like to have a camera that is capable of 60 frame rates per second. Any thoughts on the OSBOT Tiny 2?
Ronnie.
That's a good news for you, Vic. Your camera is also capable of 60 FPS. You just have to do some configuration in the control software. First and foremost, you have to disable the virtual camera functionality, and you have to enable high frame rate. There are a lot of other small tweaks that also need to be kind of set before you can use it for 60 frames per second, but that is perfectly capable of that.
Yeah, I actually have one of these Tiny 2s as a travel webcam PTZ. I like it a lot. The software, the OBSBOT Center software 18 months ago was a little iffy. I know that a lot of, I was curious about it because unlike the Insta360, I could actually do, you could program OSC commands to control the thing. But image quality has been pretty nice. It's very tiny. And what I found it actually being used for is, I think I talked about this last week, I've got an iPad tripod mount that then has a little cold shoe on the top, and then I slide that Tiny 2 onto there, and it becomes a very nice little follow. The one other thing that I'll mention with that is, and this goes for the Insta360 as well, there's going to be settings in there for gesture control and voice control and things like that. I tend to turn all of that stuff off simply because I'm a pretty expressive person when I talk, and I find that anytime I'm in a Zoom call and I'm doing this, all of a sudden the camera starts running all over the place. If you feel like you need to control it, get the physical remote control and control it that way. If you feel like, but this and this and this and whatever, I find that I trigger it more often inadvertently, and then when I want to, it doesn't work. So anyway, for what it's worth, camera quality is good, but like Ronnie said, you may be able to make that Insta360 Link version 1 work for you, and you'll keep your horizon correction. Next question.
This question is coming in from Guy Cochran in Seattle. Blackmagic Design announcement: due to U.S. tariff changes, we have been able to reduce the prices of some of our products. That was a quote. And he says, what products?
Jason?
Okay. There's no world where I would know more about this than Guy. My guess is that we'll find out at NAB, and they are actually just signaling something, to somebody that needs to, relax, that deadlines will be met, and that's why they would do such a nebulous announcement.
Yeah, we'll see. That's coming up in and towards the end of April. I know that there's a bunch of us who are going to be congregating around NAB. We hope to see you there. More on that to come, but stay tuned. We're trying to figure out what we can do, even if it's just an after hours, to make sure that we're bringing as many of the office hours family to the show as we can. Next question.
Douglas Carmichael asks, what USB cables do you prefer using for critical production use? Have you ever had issues with video dropouts over the USB bus?
Jason.
Not as the result of cabling, because the cabling that I have is really solid. There is exactly one case where I find that so my bread and butter is the OWC Thunderbolt 4 cabling. And they make one that actually has an adapter that is part of the end, so you can just put it on, and it basically works in every scenario: power delivery, bandwidth, the whole 9 yards. For some reason, and maybe they fixed this, ATEM. My ATEM, for some reason, cannot be plugged in with this. I don't know why. It could be that I just did something wrong. I've never really taken the time to troubleshoot it. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, and just kind of moved along. But yeah, I have never had an issue. Now, if you're running really long, you should be using a Balun with Ethernet, but no. The short answer is no, Douglas.
Sorry, Courtney.
Well, unless you're on a very long cable, which I'd advise you not to use, try and use cables less than 6 feet long. You're not going to run into a problem with a cable that's rated for whatever level of USB you have, either 2.0 or 2.1, because the data rate doesn't really get that high to exceed the carrying capability of the cable. Where you run into problem with USB, and I have had glitches, with video coming in over USB, but it's been with the chipset in the computer not being able to handle the buffering, because USB is an asynchronous protocol. So that means it's buffered at the inside the computer as on the incoming signals. And then whatever program is using those signals pulls bytes out of the buffer at a certain rate. And if you don't pull them out at the same or faster rate than you're putting them in, you're going to have a buffer overflow or underflow. And that's when you can see glitches in your video, because the data rate of all the data flowing in and the data rate of that flowing out. And sometimes bad drivers in the computer can, you can change that, change the buffer size, change the service, frequency of the drivers for the USB, can sometimes fix that. But sometimes you don't have access to those. I found Dell to have a problem with that in their chipset. So be careful if you're using the same data bus to plug several things in that are trying to deliver high frame rate video and or audio with multiple channels. Like sometimes if you're only using 2 channels, I found on the Rodecaster that it's sending 2 USB signals, 2 USB instances over the chat and the regular is sending 8 channels and the chat's only sending 2 channels. So if you turn off the regular, if you're not using it, it'll stop that stream, and so that can kind of sometimes prevent buffer overflow.
Tom?
And then finally, if you have a long cable that you need, I recommend the fiber USB-C cables. I used one here between my Mac and my ATEM Mini Extreme for a couple of years and never had a bit of trouble.
Yeah, it's sorry, go ahead, Alexander.
Yeah, and like other people here, I've never had issues specifically with USB bus related stuff that had to do with the cable, but it goes without saying with the USB spec, try to keep your cable lengths under 15 feet. Yes, I've seen issues beyond 15 feet, so like Tom was suggesting, fiber stuff would work better. If you have, this is probably a good opportunity, Douglas, to take stock of what you have. If you have a mishmash that you've built up over the years of different brands, find a brand that you've tested that you find the cable quality is well built, and do what I did. Take all those wires that are in your closet, throw them all in the garbage, and replace every single one with the exact same brand, and get yourself a label maker and tag all your cables, and then you should be good.
Yeah, I'm with David Brady. Cable Matters works really well for me. I've had success with them. The other thing I'll mention if you're buying Thunderbolt cables is buy them ones that have the number of what like grade it is. It's Thunderbolt 3, Thunderbolt 4, Thunderbolt 5. Because at first, when you saw the Thunderbolt icon, you were like, yes, this is the good one. I'm going to get it. And then as the years went on, all of a sudden, well, how old is that cable again? Even Apple, who is, they are never going to, they put as few pieces of text on something as possible. Even on their new Thunderbolt 4 and 5 cables, it's not on the actual cable itself, but if you look at the metal, at the silver metal that plugs into the machine, there's a little 4 or there's a little 5 on the obverse of where or the reverse of where the serial number is. I've had a lot of CalDigit and OWC Thunderbolt cables as well, because in our office, we've got probably about 200 machines, and they all have a dock. And it's we've been through, I think, 2 or 3 generations of dock now. And so as a result, they all come with Thunderbolt cables. So we have just a glut of too many Thunderbolt cables. And in almost all cases, Thunderbolt 3 and 4 have been backwards compatible with everything, and it's worked just fine. The times that we see USB fail is, in addition to the things that Courtney said, if you have too many different things that are trying to talk to the same USB bus on the computer at the same time, that can cause conflicts because things are just too chatty. So if you can, plug directly into the machine, don't go into a hub, and then if you can take it one step further, try and figure out which USB ports on your machine are corresponding with which bus, because that's going to help you make sure that you're giving it all of the room that it needs to be, just be chatty with my video source, not with everything else. Jason?
I have to reiterate what CJ said. That was absolutely right. Consider rethinking your bus allotment, because that is almost certainly the issue if it's not the cable length.
Next question.
This one is from Andy Kokendorfer in Vieira, Florida, USA. Our conferences have 20 to 25 breakout tracks, so I was hoping for a small auto-follow PTZ system, less than $2,000 each to fit the budget for a week. Power over Ethernet and NDI with remote min and geo-fencing settings would be awesome. Any suggestions?
All right. I don't know if the excuse me. I don't know if this is the best option, but this is the option that I have direct experience with. In the OWC Tail 2 is about $1,200 per camera, and you can get into it remotely and you can connect it NDI. It does work over PoE. The only thing that you have to look at there is when you go into the auto tracking settings, and I think we've got another auto tracking right after this from Zach Stallsmith, so we'll get into that in a second, but there are settings on how aggressive you want that auto tracking to be, and also for, are you going to be pan locked? Are you going to be tilt locked? How do you want it to be auto following? I got one of these just before the end of the last year and have been super impressed with just how easy it was to set up. Now, I don't have is experience of having 25 of them running at the same time and having to manage them all. So there may be a better solution for that one. But as far as what I've experienced with, I've had some good luck with the Tail 2. Next question.
All right, this one is from Zach Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York. Has anyone used auto tracking with PTZ cameras, and what were the successes and challenges you found?
Jason.
Sure. Of course I have. And if I'm getting paid for it, I would never use it. Probably because I just have never spent enough money to get it right. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it works really great for talking head. And if we're talking about a stage or on, basically anything else, I don't know. Maybe I'm just risk averse, but I don't really trust it.
Courtney.
Yeah, the only problems I've run into it is when you have a static person like us sitting here, the PTZs, the auto tracking, a lot of times would do an unintentional zoom in. And that's annoying, especially here where we're trying to stay carefully positioned for vertical and horizontal output, different types of framing. So, if you're going to be going out to, social media where you're going to have that 9x16 and 16x9 output at the same time, tracking can screw you up there because it's going to change your framing and sometimes not for the better. So try and lock it down. You can set it to autofocus, but I usually turn off auto framing because it tends to give you that unintentional zoom in when you don't want it. And sometimes it'll pan off and it won't quite get it correct. It'll put you kind of off center and make you look like an Antonioni movie or something, but Dutch angle. Yeah,
Blow Up? Is that what that was? Michelangelo Antonioni. It's a good movie. Anyway, with any of these PTZ auto tracking, the more controls that you have over how that PTZ is doing the auto tracking, the better you're going to be served. Because if you don't want it to zoom in, you can lock out. You need to have the ability to lock out a zoom function, lock out a pan, lock out a tilt, basically control the parameters that it's going to be automatically doing, and also adjust how aggressive it is, because nobody wants to use auto tracking. But if you're resource constrained, if you're a 1 or 2 person operation, you don't have a camera operator, and you have somebody who you need to have framed semi close, but they're a walker, you've got to figure out how to follow them. So, it's not perfect, but it might be the tool that you have to do the job. The other thing that I'll mention with as far as configuring it is some of the models, I know I had this with the Tail 2, I'm sure others do it as well, is that you can actually program in the framing. So you can have the subject in the shot, position it so that you're saying, okay, they're going to be left of frame, they're going to be right of frame, you adjust the headroom, and then you tell the camera this is the frame that you should be, that's your North Star that you should be aspiring toward. And then you can get away from the habit that a lot of auto trackers do, which is to give you way too much headroom and put the eye in the center of the frame as opposed to on the top third. Ronnie?
Yeah, so this is a really, really engaging thing. And I would just like to show you these new services that are created using AI. So the page I'm looking at right now has a really, really cool process going for it. And I think as AI will progress, so will these type of tools. So these are just capturing your local audio and video and putting that into an AI processor, which is running on AI, and it's like LLM for video. It has a lot of cool stuff going on. I will put the link in the chat, so take a look at that if you're into automatic tracking.
And Guy in the chat put in that there's new firmware for the Sony FR7 and AM7 that's worth looking into. And if you ask him after hours, he's testing 3 PTZ Optics models with the PTZ Optics Move 20X. So more to see there. Next question.
This one is from Ronnie Hofsoy in Tromsø, Norway. Chris is hosting a Claude Code Lab this weekend. Are you prepared?
I am so darn excited about the Claude Lab. It's going to be great. Chris, go ahead.
I'm not prepared. No,
it's all vibes.
That's the point, right? Like, it's all vibes, right? Like, we're just vibing. It should be interesting. Like, the whole concept behind this is it's just simple. Like we just want to dip your toes in the water. We're gonna create a simple website and publish it using GitHub pages. So the only requirement of expense that you need is the subscription to Claude Code. I think what we're going to try and build is a production logger. So just like a little website you can either start a timer or use time of day and click a button, type a note, and it saves it in a log for that time. So just like a simple tool that people can kind of dip their toes in and kind of see how this all works. And I think a lot of people, like, once you've done something simple, it's like, oh, and now you start seeing all the possibilities of the things that you can create. And I think tomorrow afternoon I'm gonna be in after hours, and I'm gonna walk through some of the Windows setup. If you're using Windows computers, it's a little more complicated getting Git set up. On Mac, I believe Git's pre-installed, and Linux it's pre-installed, and it's all easy stuff on Mac and Linux. But tomorrow I'm gonna be playing with that just so I am comfortable with what's going on. But yeah, that's the plan.
And then what is the time for the specific Claude Code Lab?
Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. So
1 o'clock Eastern. Very cool.
Yeah. Shortly after an hour or so after the show.
Very exciting. Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to it. And if you are in the community, this is one of the great things about office hours is that we have after hours, which runs 24 hours a day. And that's just kind of an open room where people come in and they can ask questions, have a back and forth, get feedback. It's a pretty cool place to hang out. And that brings me to kind of about the community as a whole. If you're not doing anything but YouTube, if you're just on YouTube, you're missing a whole lot. There's a chat here on the back end. There's also voting on the questions that happens during the show. There's a great Discord community. There's a ton of stuff happening in after hours. So there's a lot more to office hours than just what our shows are. So I encourage everyone to go to officehours.global/join, sign up for the email there, and then you'll get a list of how to get into all of the inside stuff. Check it out. Next question.
This one is from Douglas Carmichael. What have your experiences been with the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO G2? Does its USB output still have the same issues as the ATEM or the other ATEM units?
So I'm assuming that what you're asking about is the black crush still present that we see on some of the USB H.264 encoders. Jason, what do you know?
Not much. As far as I know, like, I haven't heard anything, but at the same time, I don't actually know anyone who's actually needed one. So I don't know. I would assume it's getting better, but also Blackmagic and encoders, like in the same sentence, just tells me, well, I don't know.
we're going to have to reach out to whoever got the unit on the ATEM G2 show. Maybe they
that's
can
right.
tell
We
us.
gave one away.
We did give one away. We're going to have to look at that. But yes, I know that it's one of the other things that's tough is that, especially in this group, we are very attentive to things like that some folks might not be. And there's a certain level of, as you're getting the crossover between people who care deeply about this compression issue and people who are encoding on things who have, up their level to a point where they're not encoding on Blackmagic hardware, like the overlap between those two groups is really small. And so I think one of the other reasons, besides cost and engineering challenges and everything else, that we see this continue on is because the higher end production tools, or as people are getting into higher end productions, they're not using Blackmagic for the encoding. And so we get into this like we're enthusiasts and we care a lot about it, but then what's the ROI for Blackmagic to aggressively address this issue? But if you have a G2, please let us know. How are your blacks? Next question.
This one's from Walt Palmer in Lewis, Delaware. I am planning to adapt a sitting electric desk into my radio studio environment. What pitfalls should I consider?
Tom.
Okay, be very careful and take a lot of time planning your wire harness. Make sure that everything is tied down, lots of slack on those cables. You don't want it pulling anything off the desk.
Jason?
Okay, so my last studio before this one, I built a ginormous desk, and I decided I'm going to put the whole thing on wheels. So this is actually a monoprice set of legs. It is 3 legs, okay, with the heaviest caster wheels you can imagine on a straight tile floor. It weighed a metric ton. It was like 6 feet by 8 feet. It was this giant L desk. Here it is with all the equipment on it. And what I found was when you put casters, even on a steel frame, it's going to bow. You need to actually get a tree to go between the legs if you're going to load the desk. Again, I know how to reinforce it. I got the right wood. It was well attached. That wasn't the issue. The issue is that, steel will eventually start to buckle, especially when, you do this to it. So, I actually ended up getting 2 or maybe 3 braces. Give you a sense of what it ended up being. Yeah. So, wasn't quite a radio studio, but it was a lot of weight on there. And I plan your cable routes very carefully. Look at ergonomics, like sites. Don't buy their super expensive chairs unless you really have the money. But they make this magnetic cable run that you can use for sit-stand desks where it magnetically attaches, and you end up with this beautiful conduit that you can move, up and down and around the legs and under the desk wherever you need it. That was my saving grace, other than the braces, of course.
Courtney.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Tom Ferguson. The cabling is probably going to be your biggest problem. And the other thing is don't change the height of the table while you're on the air because it's going to make noise, both acoustically and electronically. Those brushed DC motors that are on those lead screws that crank that thing up and down generate a lot of EMI hash. And if you've got analog type microphone signal level cables running near those motors, it's going to get into your audio. So even if they're not, even if you're don't have an open microphone at the time, if you've got let's say a feed from a turntable or a cassette machine, that's old school, or a computer, let's say, into your radio board, it can pick up EMI. So run the cables well away from where the motors are, at least a foot away from where the motors are in the legs. And of course, as Tom said, make sure you have enough slack in those. Don't tie wrap them down to the base because you're going to break a cable or pull some connectors out or pull stuff off the top of the desk when you raise and lower that desk. So make sure if you do anchor cables to the legs or something that you have them on a sliding anchor that can let those cables slide up and down, and don't bind them.
The other question I would have, Walt, is video a requirement or is it just audio? If video is a requirement, then I've seen lights mounted to a desk that'll move, but a camera is going to get especially on a standing desk, you're going to get a lot of shaking, especially the higher you get. So camera is going to be more challenging. But even with a microphone, if you're going to be moving up and down and the microphone's attached to the desk, then you're going to get all of that noise. Anything that taps and touches the desk is going to get telegraphed. So I don't know if it makes sense in that case to have something mounted to a wall that has more travel up and down. The other thing, and Mickey brought this up in the chat, is to consider the capacity of the load cells. As you overload a desk that isn't rated for what you need plus 50%, it'll start to sag. And my early days in office hours, I would start out, my headroom was perfect, and then 20 minutes into the show, my headroom was here, and then 30 minutes into the show, my headroom was here, and then 40 minutes into the show, my headroom was here, and I said, hey, wait, maybe I shouldn't be on a standing desk. Next question.
Kyle Hammond in Chicago asks, what are your current camera recommendations for conference room PTZ?
Well, there's a ton of options out there. We talked a little bit earlier about some options from PTZ Optics and OBSBOT. It does depend on how much are you just wanting to have a speaker be framed properly versus look, really, really good, because you can get, especially in a smaller conference room, you can get little PTZs that will get the job done. The question is, do you want it to just get the job done, or do you want it to look really good? How much optical zoom do you need to get to both sides of the room? The other thing I would consider is, should you get two? Because let's say that you have a conference room and you have all of your positions around the conference room table that you want these to be able and swing around and get. Well, it's going to be very uncomfortable let's say that you have a conference room table and here's person A is talking and then person B is talking. Well, if you have one PTZ and it's going to be on the whole time, all of a sudden you're going to go from this angle and you're going to whipsaw over to this angle. Well, that's not going to work. I am kind of a fan of, if you have an operator, do you have two PTZs where, you can have a camera angle that's on speaker A and then camera B is kind of looking off into nowhere, but then you can say, oh, now speaker B is going to hit. Now I'm going to go to this preset. The tricky thing with that is you're going to be hitting presets you're having to set presets for each of those seating positions. And then I have this like vision in my head of somebody's there with a stream deck that's got a row of presets for person A and a row of presets for person B, and you're going to go bing, 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 and then have to switch them all around and keep in your head, which is on preview, which is on program, and how are you going to cut between them. Most corporate people, though, you have to remember, are used to, if there's any sort of camera switching at all happening, they probably have a static camera that's like an OWL or a Polybar or a D10 or something like that, where the only switching of camera angles that's happening is a digital reframe, where it's going and it's trying to figure out who the speaker is and then zooming into them. So if you grab two, if you're able to have an operator and you have two PTZs and you're switching between them and you have all the presets set, you could probably make a pretty compelling production. But you've got to, for that audience, so you got to consider what the audience is. And but as far as automatically, maybe somebody should come up with that. Put the auto switching in between. Chris, you could probably vibe code that on Sunday. I don't know. Next question.
This one's from Douglas Carmichael. Mercedes-Benz is now marketing their in-car audio systems as Atmos approved. Thoughts?
It's all around us. Jason.
Who is surprised that they're running out of ways to make premium audio in $175,000 cars? Who is shocked here? It's an easy chip. It's an onboard thing. Bose is so, early aughts. So, of course, I don't see why they wouldn't put a 3D audio decoder in there, because, why not?
Courtney?
Yeah, sure enough, some ambulance-chasing lawyer is going to put a commercial out on their radio stations that has ambulance sounds, sirens coming at you from the right rear or somewhere, or left rear, and you're going to swerve your car to avoid a phantom ambulance that is passing you. And I think it's dangerous. I hate all of those ads that put car horns or sirens or anything in a specific area because it distracts you from your driving. I think it's a bad idea to have anything other than stereo coming into your car to listen to music on, because advertisers will take advantage of something stupid like that and distract you like crazy. It's bad enough driving with just, talk radio playing.
Yeah, it's an exercise in marketing. I do appreciate when a car has a quote premium audio option. I used to drive quite a bit, probably 60 to 65,000 miles a year. Like, I was in the car a lot, and let me tell you, you notice it's never the quality of the speakers though. It's the baffling that they put into the body of the car to take the road noise out. So Atmos approved. Okay, that's cute. And I'm sure that they're going to try and figure out a way to charge a subscription for it. If you want good audio, stay at home and listen to your hi-fi system. But remember, it's not always the speakers. It's the room treatment that those cars are getting the money for. Next question.
This one's coming from the QR code. Caleb Grayson in Pittsburgh asks, I have a Tiny 3 PTZ. I'd like to use it as the podium to show the audience to Zoom. What are my options to do this from the back of the room tech table? I'm thinking laptop on the podium or iPad and companion over a network.
Really is PTZ day today. So if you have, I'm assuming that the PTZ is on the, if the PTZ is closer to the podium and you needed to whip around to show the audience, you're probably just using presets to do that. If I were you in that situation, I would probably have a kind of a utility computer at the wherever the PTZ is. Then you can remote into. That's going to be your most reliable. Trying to over the wireless or with an app go directly from the back of the room to the camera could give you issues. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is a hodgepodge solution, right? Like, the Tiny 2 is not the right camera to do this with. But if that's what you have and that's what you're going to do, and I'm fully versed in that concept, right? Like, you got what you got and you got to make it work, right? I think you're onto it. You're gonna have to have a computer close to it, and then kind of remoting into it to control it. That's probably going to be the best bet in terms of like what you have and what you're trying to do with what you have. In a perfect world, you'd have something maybe with NDI, something where you can ship that signal from the camera back to wherever you are, so you're not sitting at the desk on a computer, remoting into another computer 30 feet away, right? But you do what you got to do. Jason?
Yeah, it's important to remember to not engage in solutionism. Like, if you find, for example, you are spending more money on cabling and computering for RDC than you are for the proper way to do this, which would be, medium wide shot that you could cut away from with some shot relief so that you're not actually whipping the camera around, because there's a reason you don't really see that a lot in movies. The audience tends to not like to get veered around, 180 degrees. Be aware of that. But RDC is your friend in this case.
The other thing, remote desktop connection. The other thing that you've got to think about is if you really, really, really want to show the audience and you're running on webcams anyway, you can probably find another webcam and just have a static shot on the audience.
Or time lapse, pre-recorded.
Yeah.
I don't think he's asking about. I don't think he, I could be wrong, but I don't think he's planning to put the thing up there and then whip around. I think this is an intentional thing that we're going to put it up.
It's a static shot.
That's maybe not static, but it's not. I don't think it's intended to view the presenter and then go to the audience. I think it's just
now. So in that case, then you could do a remote control, but there's some things that you want to consider there. this camera is probably not the tool for the job. 2 reasons. Number one, the stage is lit, the audience is not. So you're going to be fighting low light, and the kiss of death with a webcam is to not give it enough light, because that sensor just does not have enough oomph to go and capture those shots. The other thing that you're going to be at a distinct disadvantage is that you're not going to be able to get tight enough to block out the person who's sleeping or not paying attention or reading their phone or doing something else. When you do reverse shots in an audience, one of the reasons that they're always so close, or sometimes you catch them singing words to a different song than what the edited, like I see this with concert footage, like you see someone singing and it's not the words that the artist is singing, and you're like, hey, wait, that's a different song. It's really tough to get ones where everybody looks engaged, and that's why those shots are always so tight. If you have a Tiny 3 that's at the podium, if you're reasonably far from the stage, you're not going to be able to get, even if you're reasonably close to the stage, outside of those first 2 rows, I don't know if you're going to be able to get the reaction shot you're looking for. But let us know a little bit more about the event. I'd like to see if we can jam something in here and make it work, because I'm actually pretty interested, because I've seen PTZs at the front, but never ones that are that small, and so I'm always for experimentation. Hey, if you've got questions and you want to ask them, you're watching on the replay here, you can actually go to askofficehours.global. That's askofficehours.global, and it's open 24/7. We do have a real names thing here, so put in your real name, put in your question, and then we'll get it into the next Q&A show. We're going to do another one tomorrow, and then we're going to do audio Q&A on Wednesday. We'll be back here again on Friday, but that's open 24/7. Nothing to log into, nothing to sign up for. Just put in your real name, put in your question. We'll start getting into them. Next question.
All right, JB Wendell in Chiang Mai, Thailand asks, is it possible to use the Blackmagic Camera app on an iPhone to send a video feed into an ATEM via Blackmagic Streaming Bridge, or does the Streaming Bridge not function that way?
Tom.
Not exactly how it was designed to function. There is, however, an easier way to get into your ATEM, and that's called an Apple TV. I have one connected up. I use it to AirPlay my iPhone into the ATEM. Let's see here. Here we go. You can use that, and it can be live and works just fine.
Jason.
Yeah, I'm going to double down on what Tom said, and bonus points if you actually just use Ethernet to connect that Apple TV. That is going to lower your latency considerably, because then there's only one Wi-Fi hop. It is the hop from your phone to your network. And if you have a modern iPhone, it's actually a class-compliant USB-C device, in which case you could technically plug a USB-C to Ethernet device into your iPhone and then be cabled the entire way.
Yeah, we actually did this. We wanted to get a shot back when we were doing the Eclipse, and the Blackmagic Camera app had just come out. And we had no way to get to we had not enough cable from where we had set up home base to, we had this big, there was a big mound that we were trying to get on the top of so that we could get the sun in the sky and the building and some of the surroundings. And it pretty much worked. But I wouldn't have done it if I was really getting paid for it. We had, I think it was 50 or 100 feet of HDMI and an Anchor, power station, Solix, whatever, that had AC power, that had an Apple TV plugged into it. Set that up 100 feet from the control table, and then went another 75 feet.
Blew my mind, but it worked. You got it to work. It was incredible.
It was pretty neat. So anyway, again, not if I'm getting paid for it, but there's a way. Next question.
Brody Hefner in New York City asks, Panelists previously recommended Audinate's free online Dante certification course as good training for networking generally, and it was updated to V3 in October. Would you still recommend this for general or refresher network training?
Tom?
Absolutely. Audinate training is fantastic, free, as you pointed out. And thanks for pointing out that it's a V3 update. I could probably use a refresher.
Chris?
Yes. So here's the thing, right? I would not do this if you're like, I need to learn networking. Like there are other options to learn networking. If you are like, I need to learn networking and also I need to learn Dante, it's fantastic, right? But like if it's just like, if you're just like, I need to refresh my networking skills, there's a bunch of stuff in there that you're not going to need to know, right? That's like, that you're just not going to need to know any of the Dante stuff if that's not what you're interested in. It is good. I did it in October. There is a vast difference between the first course and the second course. Like first course is pretty base level networking concepts, and then the second course they get pretty deep pretty fast. And I haven't got through that yet.
And Mickey McAchore gives his one-word endorsement, yes. But Ryan Thomason points out that while he loves the training, they have some room for improvement in how they explain IP addressing. So do some follow-up on your own on YouTube there. Next question.
All right, this one's from Angelo Jack in Brooklyn, New York. Have a new Yamaha DM3-D. Am I correct that you cannot record multi-track to a connected USB drive?
Alex.
You are correct. There is only stereo recording. Now, you can pick the sources where you're going to be pulling that mix from, but there is no multi-track record. So there's two ways to do this. One, you can do this over Dante very easily. You're going to have to buy yourself a license for Dante Virtual Sound Card, and you can do all the multi-track recording you want. Dante Virtual Sound Card, 64x64 interface, but you can configure it in any kind of, input output that you want. The other way to do it over USB is you can absolutely record multi-track over USB, and so the current firmware on the DM3 is 3.0. When they introduced 2.0, they added updates to the drivers. So basically now there are two different modes. Mode 1, I'm looking at my console right here. Mode 1 is an 18 in, 18 out. Mode 2 is broken up into 4 separate interfaces effectively. So you've got 3 2x2 options. So, those are great for live streaming. You just want the streaming stereo mix going out to something like OBS or vMix or Mimo Live or whatever application you're using. And then the fourth one is a 12 in, 12 out option. So a lot of flexibility with the routing in that firmware. So make sure your console is fully up to date.
If you're enjoying what you see here at Office Hours, there are a few ways you can help us. Of course, you can like and subscribe to the show on YouTube, share it with your friends. Also, and you can volunteer. We have some spots on the panel here. If you've got production experience and you think that you could contribute to the conversation, we'd love to have you here on the panel. There's also volunteer roles in the back end. And what I like to do, because I think I get a lot of value out of Office Hours, I think about what was that show worth to me? How much time did it save? Did I solve a problem? Maybe it was $5, maybe it was $10, whatever it is. I go to officehours.global/donate, and I try to give that value right back to the show because we are run on donations, and we appreciate everyone's support. Help keep us moving forward. That's officehours.global/donate. We appreciate it. Next question.
This one is Tommy Johnson, St. Paul, Minnesota, USA. I need to pause the cut until my PTZ is in location for a PIP. How can I do this in Companion?
Jason.
Oh, Tommy, so many ways. It's going to be a little bit of practice, and it's going to be a lot of back and forth until you have it dialed in just right. But you can do it in macros. You could also do it with a Stream Deck. But essentially, you set, and then there's a counter, and you can actually put a delay in between the commands, and then it's just a matter of trying to figure out the optimal time. If it's going from position, I wish I had my telestrator right now, CJ. You got me jealous. If I had to go from position 2 to position 3, is that an additional 2 seconds that I need in order to make that a different route, a different way to do this? Or can I get away with just a go to 1, and it doesn't matter where I am. Going to 1 is always going to take X seconds. That's the long and the short of it.
Chris?
Yeah, two ways you can do it. One, you just don't cut until the camera moves, right? That's the easy way. If what I think you're trying to do is have a button that moves, you click one button, it moves, and cuts to it, right? And as Jason said, it's just in companion, it's just a delay. Add a delay for whatever. Probably a second is probably good enough for almost all moves, but you'll have to kind of tweak and just kind of make sure that will cover all your moves.
Jason?
And then there's always the dirty way to cheat, stingers.
It's just a big fly-in. Well, I certainly don't feel stung. We had a wonderful smattering of questions today, and we really appreciate that, everyone. Thank you to our producers for asking such wonderful questions on this fine Friday. Also, thank you to our wonderful panel for being in today. We had a great showing. Everyone's coming in, giving that life experience for the high value of free $99. So thank you, everyone, for donating your time and your knowledge. No one of us is as smart as all of us, is what I like to say. Also, thank you to our back-end crew for getting your questions in front of us, keeping us looking and sounding good moving forward. They're the bedrock of what we do. And Butterfingers and Bananas aside, we appreciate them every single day. It's a lot like Traversal had we gone around in person and asked questions for today's episode. That's 2166 for those playing the home game. 52,000 miles, that's 83,000 kilometers, 410 million bananas for scale. We'll see you in After Hours.
Free $99. Do you subscribe to like Dad Jokes Monthly? Like,
I do my best.
This? Oh, what? So good.
For you, free $79.
Alex, no hands. I don't know. I'm sorry. I didn't have. I was not ready to tap dance on that one.
No, it's okay. My question's no good. It's all right. All right. I'll see you guys.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Adios.
Okay, for the record, the dynamic gallery, a little unsettling on text-based slides, because it's funny, as the meters move, it went from being center framed to going over to where the meters were bouncing up and down. But when it's full of faces, very, very, very nice. I thank you, Robert.